I feel like a lot of people, even though they have this vast database, the internet, to get all this information, we know that the number one source of news for Americans is television. And now, you're seeing more internet users, more people using the internet as a news resource, but still the majority of the people are going to CNN.com or FoxNews.com or all of these trusted media sources to get the same news they were getting on TV. How do we as citizens start trying to branch out and encourage other people to branch out, and how do we figure out what's true in all of it?
It's a simple question. So, first of all, I think that the least helpful part of what I'm about to say comes now. Because I think that the very notion of knowledge, which of course would be justified true belief, so truth, has shifted from, or is in the process of shifting from the old idea, which is that to know something means to drive out disagreement. That until we've settled it, we don't know it. And that's really true for books, because books, you write it down in ink and it's done and it's settled. But if knowledge itself is becoming a network thing, and is taking on the properties of the network, networks thrive on difference, not on agreement. Because if it's an agreement, then it's uninteresting. It actually doesn't add any value to put up the post that says, I agree. That's sort of the least interesting sort of comment. And networks thrive on difference, and they never, as we know now from the internet, they never resolve anything. There is nothing on the internet that has not been contradicted. And probably in every, multiple ways in every. And it seems to me that we are edging towards, actually have been for a while, a notion of knowledge and truth that accommodates the human fact that we're never going to agree. And that human fact is now completely exposed by the internet. You cannot avoid it on the internet. So having said that, if that's all there were, then we all should despair because there's no possibility of truth, and we're all just believe whatever you want, which I don't believe for a second, and I don't think anybody actually believes. We're very passionate in what we think is true. So we still have the same old problem, which is we don't have the same old phony but easy solution, which is Walter Cronkite will tell me what's true. Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course he did. Actually it's a good example. Walter Cronkite was not Fox News, which lies through its teeth every occasion that it can. Walter Cronkite actually was attempting, with a solid organization behind him, to only tell us true things. But of course, inevitably, he's a human being. It is filtered. It does reflect his idea of what's important, the station's idea of what geographic areas to cover. Walter Cronkite did not do a lot of coverage of Nigeria. Nigeria is the same size as Japan. It's an oil-rich country, but for whatever reason, it doesn't show up in American news, not even Walter Cronkite's news, until something goes wrong, and suddenly it will. So the old idea was, we'll get some competent, good people, they'll filter it for us, in half an hour we'll see the world. And that's very comforting, but it's essentially false. And it's dangerously false. And it seems to me arguably as dangerously false as being thrown out into the wild world of the internet and never being quite sure that anything is true. If you ask me to choose between those two, I would say we are way better informed now than we were when we only had the half hour of well-intentioned news. Mm-hmm. The white man's slice of news is basically what it was. So how do we deal through this? How do we work through this? Well, yes, we are going to the same mass media sites generally for our news. The Pew Internet group just issued a report last week that shows that even though that's the case, and I think there's almost an inevitability to that, because they have an infrastructure that allows them to, they have journalists on the ground. They can generate reports, and it is a skill that you need to be trained to in ways that the crowd can't. So we go there, but we don't go there for a half hour of structured news. I don't think. No, in fact, studies show. We're not going to CNN.com and watching the half hour roundup. We're going to CNN.com because somebody tweeted something provocative, or somebody in Facebook, the Facebook group was formed or whatever. In fact, I always get statistics wrong, but so 5 times as many people are going to those mass media sites through Facebook links as opposed to through Google links. And that may be wrong, but it doesn't matter. So we're going there because we have a network on top of the news sources. It's a social network. It's all the different sorts of networks that we engage in as we travel through the web that says, oh, this is interesting. I know you're very concerned with Nigeria. Here's the latest report. Or, I know you don't give a rat's ass about Nigeria, but I think you'll find this really interesting about, and so you get that link, and maybe you go. The news sources are there, but we're now the editors. We, meaning we socially, our social groups as well as individuals, we decide what the nightly news is. And the nightly news now is not a half hour put together by Walter Cronkite. It's 24 hours that's put together by the widest range of people that we can find and imagine. Mm-hmm. It's not wide enough. There's also good evidence that we tend to stick with people whose opinions are way too much like our own, but it's wider than it was, and it's an area that desperately needs work, in fact, is how do we help ourselves get out of our comfort zones to see the world more widely. That is a very real problem.